a little play off of Eli Apple, who was like Cancun on 3. So, Rita, let's start there. Like, you were having a great time on Twitter, just going at the Bengals. Why were you going at them so hard?
I'm gonna grow up one day. I don't know when that day is gonna be, but
No, no, don't do that.
one day I
Don't do
am gonna
that.
grow up.
Take your time.
Um,
Don't do that.
but obviously being a Baltimore girl, covering the Ravens. Before I started covering them, I was a fan. So my fandom got to me for a moment. I'm not gonna even lie. So they look. I love Joe Burrow. I think that he's a great human being. I think that he's a phenomenal football player, but I don't like him as a football player because, they went on this whole he went on this whole podcast tangent last off season and talked so much about 500 yards that he put up against the Ravens when they had dudes that was literally working at Aldi's before, they played that game because they had nobody on defense. You was bragging about that. So it really felt good to see, somebody. Look, when they said Burrowhead, they went too far. Okay, I love a good trash talking. Don't get me wrong, I love it. But when you called the Burrowhead, y'all try to act like Patrick Mahomes is not the best quarterback in the game, and that's disrespectful. And I'm just glad they got humbled. They've been real quiet ever since Sunday. Well, except for when they want to whine about the refs, of course. But outside of that, they want to act like 2 picks didn't happen and all these other things. So, I'm just enjoying the defeat of the Cincinnati Bengals at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs, which is very weird because we don't really like the Chiefs either, but, the enemy
I
of the enemy
love
is...
this. Hey, Trotter, I was going to say.
Go ahead.
But didn't I say this to you, Trotter? Didn't I say this to you? I think we were talking about it. I said, all right, Eli Apple, he had a great time. He had a great time. It was great stuff. It was very funny after they beat Buffalo, and he had all these memes, and he's calling Stephon Diggs, Terrell Owens Jr., and going on and on and on. Hilarious. And my question at that time was, oh, okay, good. That was a divisional playoff game. You didn't win the Super Bowl. You didn't win the conference. You better keep up that same level and that same energy. And Trotter, he wasn't able to do it, was he?
Here's the problem people have with the media, right? And I'm going to come at you on this, Michael Holley, is that we say we want players to be open. We want players to talk. We want trash. And then they give it to us, and then you turn around and say, why you talk so much, right? You can't have it both ways, bro. You can't have it both ways.
I like it. I enjoy it. I enjoy it because when they fail, you have something to go on, right? Like, especially when you don't like that person. Because, it's not like you do this for everybody, right? Like, Eli Apple has literally made himself a heel, like a WWE type of dude at this point. It's not even just media. Players have even said things about, after their loss regarding Eli Apple, Stephon Diggs, and, Sauce Gardner. So it's not even just us at this point. But for the most part, we like that stuff. Come on, we really enjoy it. It gives us something to talk about during the week.
And if Eli Apple were playing for the Baltimore Ravens, you would be right there in his corner backing him up. Come on now, be honest about it.
Well,
yes,
listen,
you would.
Yes,
you would.
Hey, but here's the thing. Hey, Trotter.
For him to talk like that. So no, I wouldn't. I would be like, I'd be over here like this. Hey, just be quiet just a little bit because you ain't that good.
but there's some of the trash talkers. Some of the trash talkers aren't. Now, Eli Apple is pretty good, but you think about it across multiple sports, like some of these big time, like think about the NBA. Patrick Beverly talks so much trash for a dude who averages like 6 points a game. But
he plays defense. He plays defense. Somebody plays defense over there.
It's interesting. It's interesting. And I think in this case, Trotter, I'm not saying don't talk trash. All my point is, when Eli Apple did all that stuff after Buffalo, if he had just kept it to Diggs and just stayed with Diggs, maybe you don't jump on him. But he went at everybody. It went on for days. He was talking trash like multiple days. And my only point was, wow, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. Not that I'm waiting for you to fail. I'm waiting to see how the story is. Because if you're talking like that, you gotta at least make it to the Super Bowl, don't you?
Well, I mean, what? Last year they did make it. This year they got to the AFC Championship game and were in a position to reach the Super Bowl. But anyway, let's move on, because that's not that.
He also had a big pass interference penalty.
See, but here's what. See, y'all gonna make me defend him. Yes, but we don't look at any of the plays that he did make either. We just focus on the one that, and I don't even want to go there at the end of the game, the one penalty that everyone focuses on and then ignores everything else that the player did during the game. But here's what I want to ask Reeta. She said Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the game, basically bar none, right? So Reeta, what I would love for you to tell me is how big of a difference of a drop-off is it from Patrick Mahomes to, say, Joe Burrow or Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert? Pick your quarterback. Tell me your hierarchy there and how what the separation is like between these players.
So I think from a talent perspective, him and Lamar are very similar. But I think that Mahomes sees the game a little bit differently than Lamar in terms of like scanning the field. And this is not me saying that Lamar doesn't scan the field. Let me be clear on that.
Right.
But we've seen Lamar, I think, try to be a pocket passer at times when he should probably move around in the quarterback because he's trying to remove that tag of him being a running quarterback. And I think that sometimes mentally he keeps himself in a pocket in situations where he probably should be trying to extend the play and move around. Whereas Patrick Mahomes he didn't come into the league with a huge knock against him like Lamar did. So he's kind of able to be who he is, which is a guy that knows how to use his legs and extends the plays and finds ways to, get in between coverages. So I think that Mahomes is absolutely the great quarterback in this league right now, but I don't think that the guys behind him are like worlds different. I think that Joe Burrow is a great talent. I think Lamar is a great talent. And I think if Lamar had better pieces around him, we would probably be having a different conversation about where we see Lamar with Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert, I think, is a guy that has an exquisite arm. But I heard you guys talking in the last segment. I mean, he does move, but moving isn't really the thing that we, accredit him for as opposed to other guys. So I think that there's Patrick Mahomes, who, he's who he is, you know what I mean? And then there's a class of really good to great quarterbacks right behind him. But I just really think that we have to call a spade a spade. And I think that Patrick Mahomes, as of right now, is the best quarterback in the National Football League because of what he can do. And he's got Tyreek Hill is no longer there, and he hasn't missed a beat. Tyreek Hill is sitting at home, and he's on his way to the Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster and, Vance, all these other guys that we just never thought that they could really continue to move forward with. But Travis Kelce is still there, of course. So I just think that we just have to give credit to where credit is due.
Well, let me be clear.
Reeta,
we're not. I'll speak for myself. I'm not disagreeing with you. I think unquestionably Patrick Mahomes is number one as it relates to quarterbacks in the NFL. I was just curious how you saw how far behind Patrick these other quarterbacks were.
Yeah, I just feel like all of them are. I think that they're behind in terms of ranking, of course, but not like. I don't think that they're worlds different. I think that all of those guys that I mentioned are really great athletes and really good quarterbacks. And I just think that, Burrow is in a position where he has two number ones, essentially. So it allows his game to be elevated. Lamar has never had a real opportunity to have like a vetted number one. And by vetted, I mean, Marquise Brown and Rashad Bateman came later after he was drafted. So he's never had like an experienced vet number one behind him. So he's elevated teammates himself based on his play, but I think that we could see an elevation of more from him if he had, like a true number one, if they got an AJ Brown per se in the offseason like Philly did. And I've always liked Justin Herbert's arm. I thought at Oregon he was great. I just always thought that, his offensive line behind him wasn't that great and his pieces weren't great, but you could always see the talent that he had. So I don't really think that these guys are like, galaxies behind. I think that the gap is closer than we'd like to admit. I just think that Patrick Mahomes has the most consistency when it comes to winning, and so we have to categorize him as such.
Reeta, you mentioned Philadelphia. I know the Eagles were just able to sneak by the 49ers in the conference championship game. They were just able to just barely get by them. It was a tough game.
Michael's loving this. He's loving this.
It came down to the last. Who had the ball last? It was going to come one of those games. Who can? Anyway, so Philadelphia was able to get by barely San Francisco. You think that? How do you see that? How do you see the Super Bowl playing out? KC, Philly, who you got and why?
All right, so I think I picked Philly when I was here last week, didn't I? Because I couldn't figure out who I wanted to pick.
You said it was going to be a close game.
I remember you going back and forth.
I thought it was going to be before Brock Purdy went out. I mean, I think that we all thought that, and then, the wheels fell off. So I really like this matchup. I mean, obviously the storylines is great within itself, and I'm excited about that. But I just really love what Philadelphia has on both sides of the ball. And look, Kansas City, obviously, they have guys on all three levels on defense that we probably don't give enough credit to. Chris Jones is one of the best, and then you got Frank Clark behind him. But I just feel like the consistency from Philly's defense is outstanding. And as great as I really feel like Kansas City can be in the front seven, I'm curious to know what is your game plan in being able to contain a AJ Brown or, a Devontae Smith? And having to watch Jalen Hurts if he finds a way to escape the pocket, that's not something that Burrow really does, but that's the game of Philly, right? They can beat you on the ground. They can beat you in the air. They can do it all. And so I think that this is going to be a really good game. I just feel like Philly they're so much more well-rounded, if I could say that, in terms of offense and defense. And I just feel like while Mahomes is going to make this a game, because that's what I don't think this is going to be like the Tampa Bay Super Bowl. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I just feel like Philly just has so many guys on both sides of the ball from the defense. Look, I forgot that they got Ndamukong Suh, in season. Like their roster is insane.
And Linval Joseph.
Yes. So I just,
it's crazy.
It's insane. So I don't know how I can make a case for Kansas City other than the fact that they got Patrick Mahomes, of course. You have to keep them in the ring. But I just feel like Philly overall, their talent is just so great that I feel them coming out with a win.
Reeta, let me ask you this before you go. Breaking news here. This is going to be the first Super Bowl that has two starting black quarterbacks in it. And I keep hearing people say, why bring this up? It's not about race, this, that, or the other. I want to ask you, how significant is this moment when we talk about NFL history and having two black quarterbacks starting in the Super Bowl for the first time?
It's huge. It's huge because for so long we've had, quarterbacks have had to fight. Black quarterbacks have had to fight to even be quarterbacks. You guys mentioned this on the last segment about Bill Polian saying that Lamar Jackson should be, a running back or a wide receiver. They didn't trust him being a quarterback. That's been a moniker that's been a thing for black quarterbacks for so long. And even good ones, you know what I mean? The Warren Moons, the Steve McNairs, the Randall Cunninghams. I've always felt like they've been good, or they've been perceived as really good. Oh, but they run too much. Oh, but they do this too much. And we've just never respected the black quarterback consistently. Doug Williams, we know what he did, but really, did people really say, oh, okay, black quarterback should be a thing after that? I just don't think that that's what happened. And I think now you're kind of forced to say that this is what it is. You can't deny talent. And it seems that there's a lot of black quarterbacks that have talent. Look at the draft class that's coming out, guys. You got Bryce Young, you got CJ Stroud, you got an Anthony Richardson. These guys are projected to be the first round. So you're starting to see the trend of black quarterbacks being more acceptable in the National Football League. I do think it's sad that it's 2023 and we're just seeing,
right,
two black quarterbacks, because just not long ago, we just had two black head coaches. What was it? Over a decade ago. We just had two black head coaches in the Super Bowl. Now you got two black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. I don't want to have this conversation again, obviously, but if we have to continue to do it, then we have to continue to do it, because the talent should always speak for itself and never the color. And I feel like prior to that, it was about the color and not the talent, but now it's about the talent and less about the color.
Reeta with the bars.
Speak on
that's
it.
What okay, that's bars right there. You just said, we're gonna drop a beat. We're gonna drop a beat behind you and just go ahead, just keep freestyling. But Jim, you put in your feed, and I want to hear you on this because obviously you think it's important. Why does Jim Trotter think this is important?
For just the month, it's never happened. And again, for all the things that Reeta referred to in terms of how black quarterbacks have been perceived and whatnot, I was actually on the phone earlier today with Rodney Peete, and I said, you know what? And it just hit me. I said, if the NFL really wanted to do this right, what it would do is bring all of the quarterbacks who are black, who have played in the NFL, bring them together for this Super Bowl. Let them, because I said to Rodney, you guys ought to get together once a year anyway, just for fellowship and whatnot, because of all that you've gone through to get to this point. I think it would have been huge for the NFL to be able to bring these men together, to show how far the league has come, to honor those who, in many ways, whether it's a Warren Moon or whether it's a Rodney Peete or whoever, who were, let's say, not treated fairly in terms of Warren having to go to Canada, Rodney not getting drafted until the 6th round. In part, they said because they thought he might play baseball or whatever, but we know that's code language for we just ain't sure about a black quarterback, right? So for me, it is a powerful and significant moment. And the reason I say that, even if I don't believe it, let's say, is because people like Doug Williams and Shaq Harris and others tell me it is an important moment. And if those men say it's important, damn it, it's important.
Yes. And I will say you both were very eloquent on this. I agree with what you said. Only disagreement I have, Jim, is that the league has not come far on it. These athletes were so relentless in continuing to pursue their passion and to play the position that they wanted to play. Lamar Jackson ain't trying to be your wide receiver. Thank you, Bill Polian. I'll be a quarterback, and I'm going to play quarterback for somebody. And even going back, and when the Steelers drafted Cordell Stewart in the 2nd round, they drafted him as a quarterback. In that first year, he had so much versatility. They said, can you play wide receiver? And this is the birth of Slash. And he said, that's great. I'll play wide receiver here. I'll fill in, but I still want to be a quarterback. And that's what it is taken from some of these players. Like, no, I'm not going to Canada. I'm not changing positions. I'm going to make you see the talent that I have. And the league, what the league did was just recognize the obvious. We saw it before they did, but they couldn't deny the obvious. That's where the NFL is.
No, but Michael, the league had no choice because the college game had changed. Yeah. So as much.
So we agree. We agree.
Yes. As much as they want to pat themselves on the back, it wasn't because
that's what I'm saying. I'm not giving it to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I'm with you.
I'm not going to give it to them.
And I always say, the National Football League is basically, they copycat college football all the time. Anytime they go to spread, they go to spread. Anytime they have guys that's moving around, they do the same thing. So like you said, now you have natural athletes that, oh, by the way, they can throw, are now quarterbacks. You have to adapt. Just so happens that a lot of those guys are black. So, it's been over time. It's far past time that we've gotten here. Michael Vick should have been probably praised way more than we gave Michael Vick a lot of flowers when he first came out. I don't want to discredit that by any means, but I think that we credited him as an athlete and a lot less as a quarterback because of when you look at his statistics. Oh, he 50%, he only passed, completed 55% of his passes, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Michael Vick was also a pioneer in terms of what the league is now. And, I feel like that should have started the trend, and we're a little late. We're a little behind on where we are. But we're here. We're here. And that's the part. Look, we're here now, and I don't think we're going back. And so this should really be a celebration of sorts. And during Black History Month, we got to celebrate, y'all.
Ooh. Oh, come on now. Yeah, right. And Black History Month. How about that? It's Black History Month. All right. Reeta Hubbard, you're always on time with your commentary, with your bars. At the NFL chick, Reeta. Not the football chick, NFL chick.
Yes, the NFL chick.
Good to see you.
You too, guys.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.